Good evening. It is 5 p.m. and this is Today in YGK on CFRC 101.9 FM, broadcasting from Lower Carruthers Hall on Queen's Campus in Kingston, Ontario. Today in YGK is brought to you by your CFRC News Collective, Ara McCauley, Jessie Bell, and Jenny Hinch. CFRC's news programming is made possible by the generous support of the Community Radio Fund of Canada, the Local Journalism Initiative, Queen's University Career Services, and for our podcasts, Smith Engineering at Queen's University. I'm CFRC's broadcast journalist Ara McCauley, and here are your local news headlines. City Council passed a motion by Councillor Chinani to explore waste diversion requirements for special events at last week's council meeting. The motion asked that city staff explore the process, organizer costs, and impacts of requiring a waste diversion plan as a condition of permit approval for large-scale events on city property and report back to council no later than Q2 of 2027. The motion pointed to challenges in enforcement and oversight of existing regulations within the event waste management plan, noting that food and organic waste diversions remains inconsistent and represents a significant opportunity for improved diversion outcomes, and that the province's transfer of recycling services to a private contractor has now removed the city's capacity to collect or verify waste diversion on site for special events. Considering this change, the motion expresses concern about the financial pressures that might be put on event organizers if future permits require them to pay for the contracting of private recycling services. Beyond costs to organizers, the motion notes that the city still needs to develop a feasible enforcement approach. Gabriella D., an assistant professor in the School of Environmental Studies with a PhD in biology and a master's in environmental studies, specializing in waste studies, spoke to council as a delegate about her experience assisting several large-scale local events with waste diversion, using the Skeleton Park Arts Festival, Arts Fest, and Rib Fest as practical examples of what organizers can do to reduce the environmental impacts on their events.
So I am here to talk to you today about why waste diversion is important in the City of Kingston. So according to the Government of Canada's waste hierarchy, the least preferred thing to do with waste is to send it to landfill. The best thing that you can do is just reduce the amount of waste. You can reuse things if possible. You should recycle them, but the least preferred thing to do is to send them to landfill. And that's very important, especially in Kingston, because there's no longer a landfill in this city. So that means that all the trash that is produced in this city gets transported by diesel vehicles to either Moose Creek, 205 kilometers away, or Twins Creek on the other side of Toronto, which is 490 kilometers away. So you can just imagine how many emissions are being produced to transport all of the waste that far to the landfills that are used by the city. I learned to divert waste when I first volunteered at the Skeleton Park Arts Festival in 2022 with a nudge from Sustainable Kingston. And what I learned there, along with the studies that I was doing at Queen's University at the time, was that the Skeleton Park really has best practices for waste diversion. The festival takes place in McBurney Park, which is a relatively small park. The first thing we do before the festival starts is we take all the trash cans in the park and we hide them in a corner and put a tarp over them so that nobody can use them. We then set up what we call a waste diversion station, which is simply a tent and a table and a bunch of volunteers and a whole lot of bins for us to sort our waste into. And that's very important because we want to make sure that there is very little to no contamination of what gets sorted. And the only real way to do that is to use volunteer power and to have the waste sorted ourselves. Skeleton Park Festival is renowned for only producing one bag of landfill trash for the entire weekend of the festival. Everything else that they produce in terms of waste is diverted. And most of that comes from the food vendors. So all of that stuff gets sorted out. It's either sent to recycling or composting. And composting is by far the best option because that goes 20 clicks down the road to Tomlinson Organics. I started waste diversion at ArtFest last year and did it again this past summer. It's a lot tougher actually to divert waste at ArtFest because the festival is so big. It takes place in City Park and it's very widespread. There's no way to take all the trash cans and hide them somewhere and only have one waste diversion station. But we've set up the waste diversion station near the food vendors because again, most of the trash comes from the food vendors. We diverted 14 95-gallon tubs worth of material over the course of the weekend. And And the thing I'm most proud of is being able to divert waste at Ribfest last year. I'm going to do it again this coming September. The organizer for that festival was absolutely amazing. He had been wanting to divert waste in the city of Kingston, but could not figure out how, had not figured out who to contact and how to do it. And when I emailed him out of the blue offering my free volunteer waste diversion services, he was very happy to take me up on it. But then he told me that 22,000 people will be coming to Ribfest. So I got a whole lot of volunteers to help me, and he already had the signage, the tent, and again, it's a small area, so we were able to take all of the trash cans, put them under that tent, so the only place that people could go with their trash was our table. So for 22,000 people that attended Ribfest last year, we were able to divert 1.4 tons of organics from landfill, and that was 68% of all the trash that was produced at that festival. The trash contractor for the festival could not deal with recyclables, so we couldn't take any of the recyclables. I took all the aluminum cans home and took them to the curb, but all the plastics went in the garbage. In terms of cost to festival organizers, tipping fees are exactly the same for landfill trash compared to compostable trash, so there's no extra cost there in terms of where they're going to be sending their trash. The only extra cost at Ribfest was the compostable bags. So just to say, we can do so much more than this at festivals. It's really easy. I provide a volunteer service. I've been volunteering with this for like 4 years now in the city, and we just need to get organizers on board to allow me to come and help them divert waste.
Councillor Chinani, who worked with Misty on the motion, had some follow-up questions.
Can you explain why it's so important to divert compostables?
So most of the waste at festivals, which is what we saw at Ribfest, is actually compostable waste. Everything that the food is served on, including any food that isn't eaten, is usually paper-type waste, and so it's all compostable. And if you send compostables to the landfill, they produce methane, and methane is a very potent greenhouse gas. It's 25 times more potent than CO2. Whereas if you compost the material, it's going to degrade and become CO2, but it's way better than it becoming methane. Also, you don't have to transport it hundreds of kilometers away. You could just transport it to Tomlinson, which is only 20 clicks down the 401.
So I don't know if you can explain why we felt this motion was needed.
Because I have been offering this free service to festival organizers for the last few years, and very few have taken me up on it. Most of the time I get, oh, that's a very good idea, thank you very much, we'll consider it maybe next year. And it's a free service. I don't ask for anything in return. I just want to help them divert their waste. I think some organizers just need to be nudged a little bit more, and if you can make it part of their contract that if they want to run a festival, they got to divert their waste, and the city can help them do it, and I'll help do it for free, then we can do a lot better.
Councillor Chinani then made his case for the motion.
Yeah, as we heard, the life of this motion has really been really well explained by Gabby and her delegation. We used to have things like Oscar, which is the off-site Kingston area recycler, which is no longer an option for waste diversion at events. Like the motion says that we are no longer responsible for recycling. So now we have to look at diverting organic waste, which is the most efficient way to deal with waste at events at the moment. And like Gabby said, it started with Skeleton Park Arts Festival, and then Ribfest is doing it, Art Fest is doing it, and the Memorial Farmers Market is always doing it. They're a really good example. So this motion is just for city staff to look at putting in place a requirement for festival organizers to have a plan to divert their waste, to minimize the amount of plastic waste that is produced at their events, and instead focus on organic waste, the things that we can control the most. I hope that you can support this, and so we can have something linked to the event permit that requires event organizers to have a proper plan and have resources that they can pull upon to actually make their events successful and also more environmentally friendly by diverting the waste properly.
Okay, we will call the vote on new motion 4. All right, and that carries.
Councillor Chinani's motion pointed to Sustainable Kingston's existing special event guidelines as a resource event organizers can draw on now, ahead of any formal requirement, and directed staff to encourage voluntary waste diversion, including the use of reusable, BPI, or certified compostable supplies for events held for the remainder of the 2026 season, to direct organizers to Sustainable Kingston's guidelines as a planning resource, and to use this period to gather feedback from organizers on the challenges and barriers to a future requirement, informing the Q2 2027 report. Sustainable Kingston is a local nonprofit organization that has been operating since 2012 that focuses on driving measurable improvements in the Kingston community through priority areas like climate action, environmental stewardship, and food security. Their sustainable event guide, which is available for free on their website at www.sustainablekingston.com/resources, offers event producers with information, ideas, and examples of best practices for waste management. Examples include partnering with Utilities Kingston's Water Buggy, a mobile drinking water unit to reduce the use of plastic water bottles, getting in touch with food rescue organizations to donate leftover food, and choosing local producers to reduce the distance food has traveled. Other suggestions include choosing digital programs instead of printing, removing garbage cans during events to drive traffic towards recycling stations, and using compostable containers. Again, organizers are invited to visit the Sustainable Kingston website to learn more about event waste diversion and for more tips and advice for sustainable, accessible, and welcome event development. That wraps up your headlines for this evening. Next up is Jesse Bell with your CFRC Sports Desk.
This is part 10 of our OUA football season preview, brought to you by CFRC Power Plays. It's time to talk about the Laurier Golden Hawks. An incredible regular season followed by a flawed postseason. Laurier was on top of the world for all of the regular season, but especially after their 47-point dismantling of the Western Mustang dynasty. They finished with an 8-0 record in 2025, a first-round bye, and a national number 1 ranking. And then it was revealed that their star wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers in U Sports history, Ethan Jordan, had broken his wrist in that Western blowout and would be out for the playoffs. Laurier didn't seem to miss him, at least in the semifinal game, as they jumped out to a 27-0 halftime lead over Guelph. The Griffins would slowly but surely cut into that lead, whittling it down to 7 points with just a minute 22 left. Guelph actually would get the ball back in the fourth quarter, but their frantic comeback ended at midfield. Laurier advances to host the Yates Cup final. And in an eerie inversion of the week before, Laurier actually found themselves on the other side of a first-half beatdown as Queens picked off quarterback Cal Wither 5 times in the first half to build a 27-3 halftime lead. Laurier fought gamely to cut that deficit down, and they got tantalizingly close to pulling off the comeback victory, but a Stephen Capella sack, John Corskadden pass breakup, and Jared Kasari first down ended Laurier's golden year, where it all began. Let's look at their 2025 stats. They were second in points for with 355, which is about 44.4 points per game. They were first in total yards, the only team to have over 4,000 yards on the season, averaging about 502 yards per game. They were third in total passing yards with 2,542, which is about 318 passing yards per game. They were third in rushing yards with 1,533. So this was a well-balanced, high-paced offense that was just really fun to watch when they were in full flow. Defensively, super underrated unit. They were second in total points allowed with 158, which is about 20 points per game. They were sixth in pass yards allowed per game with 294, and first in rush yards allowed per game with just 117. They were fourth in total yards per game with 411. Really underrated defensive unit that was simply lethal against the run. And because of this combination of a strong offense and an underrated defense, they had easily the best point differential in the OUA with plus 197. Really impressive stuff. Looking at their last 5 seasons, they went 3-3 in 2021, 5-3 in 2022, 7-1 in 2023, and then they had back-to-back 8-0 seasons, winning the Yates Cup and losing in the Vanier Cup to Laval in 2024, and then going 8-0 in the regular season before losing the Yates Cup at home to Queens in 2025. So what do I expect in 2026? To be honest with you, a slight regression. Laurier lost their 2 best offensive players in quarterback Cal Wither, who has transferred at least twice by the time this airs, and wide receiver Ethan Jordan, who will be playing in the CFL. They still have a strong offense with running back Tayshaun Jackson, one of my favorite players to watch in all of Canada, wide receiver Ryan Hughes, who looked great for a lot of the playoff run, and, they're going to have a solid offensive line and just a solid offense overall. That unit has lost key pieces. There are questions at quarterback, but they're going to be good. And their defense, which we touched on in the stats section, super underrated. They've got a lot of guys back. They'll be solid as well. Despite that, though, They are missing their head coach who really helped build this program into its new golden age, and I think that's going to hurt. I have Laurier losing to Guelph, Windsor, and Western. They're going to beat Ottawa, Mac, York, Waterloo, Carleton pretty comfortably. But it's just a question of, can they perform at the level they've set for themselves over the last 2 years against those elite OUA teams? Keep in mind, I did predict Laurier to regress a little bit last year, and they responded with a historic 2025 season. So I could just be wrong again. But I think, or rather, I question if Laurier has the horsepower necessary to keep up with some of the immensely talented elite teams in the OUA. So I have them at 5-3, finishing 5th. I've got them in a road quarterfinal game against Windsor. Who knows? But that's where my mind takes me in 2026.
Coming up next, I've got your traffic and weather reports for the Kingston region. This is your City of Kingston traffic report. Cranbrook Street from Lakeview Avenue to Days Road is closed for pedestrian improvements. Bath Road from Sir John A. Macdonald Boulevard to Portsmouth Avenue. Expect delays for the installation of intersection pedestrian signals. The city is installing these IPS at the following intersections: Bath Road at LaFleur Park, Concession Street at Kings Court Avenue, and Stephen Street at Patrick Street. Wright Crescent at Palace Road to Palace Road. Closed for a contractor to complete roadway repairs, pedestrian safety and access improvements, and traffic calming features on Wright Crescent. Norman Rogers Drive from Sir John A. Macdonald Boulevard to Van Order Drive. Started on June 15th, and Norman Rogers Drive is still closed to through traffic to facilitate roadway rehabilitation and configuration improvements. This work will improve road condition, accessibility, and safety for all road users. The City of Kingston and Utilities Kingston are in the midst of a major reconstruction of Princess Street. This infrastructure project includes upgrades to underground and above-ground utilities, as well as improvements to enhance safety and comfort for pedestrian and cyclists. Berry Street from Queen is closed for construction-related activity at 283 Queen Street, and Aberdeen Street from Johnson to William is closed to accommodate construction activity and staging. This is your Environment Canada weather report for the Kingston region. Monday, August 17th, daytime high of 25 degrees, feeling closer to 28 with the humidity, 60% chance of rain in the forecast. Tuesday, August 18th, 25 is your high, feeling closer to 27. A trace amount of precipitation in the forecast, just 25%. Looks like it'll be a beautiful, mostly sunny day. Wednesday, August 19th, 23 is your high, feeling closer to 24 with a lot of clouds in the forecast. An 88% chance of rain and a high likelihood of an afternoon thunderstorm thanks to the humid conditions. Thursday, August 20th, 23 is your high, feeling like 25. Beautiful sunny day here, quite breezy, especially moving into the afternoon and evening. Friday, August 21st, 23 is your high, feeling like 25. Sunny conditions in the forecast. Saturday, August 22nd, 24 is your high, feeling like 25. A bright, brilliant, sunshiny day. Perfect chance to swing by Richardson Stadium here in Kingston and catch a preseason football game between the Queen's Gaels and the Laval Rouge Or. Kickoff at 3 p.m. and yes, we will be broadcasting the game on CFRC 101.9 FM pregame show starting at 2:45. Sunday, August 23rd, 23 is your high with a 73% chance of rain. Monday, August 24th, kicking off next week, we've got a sunny day, less humidity, more of a beautiful breezy condition here in the City of Kingston. Coming up next, we've got Genevieve Hinch with CFRC's concert and events calendar.
Hello, Kingston, and welcome back to CFRC 101.9 FM. Broadcasting from Kingston, Ontario, I'm CFRC's Community News and Arts Coordinator, Jenny, and this is your weekly events and concerts calendar brought to you by Flying V Productions. Whether you're looking for live music, community events, markets, workshops, or something fun to do around the city, there is lots happening this week, so let's get into it. Starting off Monday, grab lunch at Cafe Franglais, take in a Murney Tower tour and story time, or get creative at Craft and Create. Live music includes Michael K. Myers, Rick Flanagan at the RCHA Club, Gerald McGrath at the Cove Inn, and the Morning Doves at Musiki. On Tuesday, get moving with chair fitness. Stop by the Conversation Cafe, check out the ASL workshop, or dance the evening away at Salsa in the Square. Live music includes Tom Savage, Chrissy Jackson, Song Ha Choi, and Ying Zhang at the Cataraqui Chamber Music Festival, and Ricky Brandt's open mic. Wednesday features games in the square, swinging summer, karaoke, trivia, and euchre. Live music includes Taryn McKenna and Vince Stabile, Sean McCullen, Nolan Hubbard, Christopher Jackson, Brass Over Tea Kettle, Dixie 6+1, and Nolan and Nick. On Thursday, browse the Kingston Public Market, bring the kids to Stories in the Square, try Paint by Numbers at the Central Library, or head to the Rocking the Square and the Forever Hip screening. Live music includes Powerhouse Trio, Bentley McKegney, Wayne Riley, Taryn McKenna, Beats Workin', Choir, Miss Emily, and Frank Ryan and Friends. Friday brings Greek Fest 2026, Spanish conversation sessions, Kicking It Country, and a music merch market. Music highlights include Left on Middle Road, Neil Carter, Matt Dixon, Jeff Dunn, Georgette Fry, John Kelly, and Lumpfish, Guilty Pleasures, and Dr. Bombay. Heading into Saturday, check out Finding Rhythm and Community through Afro Dance, Handmade for Humanity, chef demos, or the Tragically Hip viewing party in Springer Market Square. Live music includes Athena Fever, Retro Kings, J.S. Miller, Jason Kent, Three's Company, Odds and the Stairs, and the China Cat Riders. Wrapping things up on Sunday, head to the Memorial Center Farmers Market, yoga in Battery Park, or the Compton Park Music Festival. Music includes Three's Company 100th Gig, Kingston Pop Choir, Doug Van de Horden and Lucas Pell, Dave McGrath, Head Over Heels, Steve Giberson's Open Mic, and live band karaoke with the Oreos. That is your weekly events and concerts calendar for August 17th through the 23rd. For more information on any of these events, visit the CFRC website and keep it locked right here on CFRC 101.9 FM. This events calendar is brought to you by Flying View Productions, bringing live theater, comedy, and unforgettable entertainment to audiences across Kingston. I'm Jenny. Thanks for listening and have a great week, Kingston!
Thank you for tuning in to CFRC's local news programming. To revisit episodes of Today in YGK and listen on the go, be sure to head to our podcast network at podcast.cfrc.ca. Today in YGK is brought to you by the generous support of the Community Radio Fund of Canada, the Local Journalism Initiative, Queen's University Career Services, and for our podcast, Smith Engineering at Queen's University. Be sure to stay tuned for more CFRC programming coming up next.